Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I am thrilled to be talking about some stuff in the Bronx that we all look at and we never stop to think about it, but maybe we ought to. So first, let me welcome Diego Raboyo from the Historic Districts Council. He's a public relations specialist for Hispanic communities. Nice to have you with us, Diego. Always good to see you.
Hi, Gary. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
And that's because you always bring us something good, and that's real nice. And along with us is an architect, John Howard, who has a fascinating project about Art Deco apartments in the borough of the Bronx. Diego, why is John's work important to you and, of course, important to the Historic Districts Council?
Yeah, I think the Bronx Art Deco Apartment House Archive project is very unique in the sense that it's made a very comprehensive list of buildings that are worth preserving. I don't know if you had the chance, Gary, to go on the website and see the amount of buildings that John has listed and also the filtering functionality. I think it's extremely useful for research purposes, and especially for identifying buildings in the Bronx that are worth preserving.
I have to laugh because you say you wonder if I went to the website to see it. I walk down the block. I walk down the Grand Concourse. I go on Marsh Loop Parkway. I go in the South Bronx, and I see Art Deco everywhere. I don't want to say I didn't need John's database, but we see it everywhere. Diego, why is this? And I know it is. Why is this right at the core of what the Historic Districts Council is about, and what they would want to support and want to see?
Because the Historic Districts Council has been doing a lot of outreach and preservation work in the Bronx. And we work with a lot of local community elected officials, community leaders, to identify buildings that are worth preserving. So I think the work that John has done through his website helps us doing the research process and identifying buildings that we should be looking at and doing more research on, and eventually sending them to the Landmarks Preservation Commission for landmark consideration.
And the notion of preservation is obviously big because, and again, when people see them, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, I know that building," or "I know a building just like it." In the borough of the Bronx. So that's really the idea, is number one, the recognition, because now after people see this segment, they're going to say, oh yeah, right, this is something in the Bronx. And then number two, with the stamp of the with HDC, the Historic Districts Council, it gives us all a chance to preserve what's really valuable.
Yeah.
Right? Great. Listen, we're going to put you aside for the moment, and we're going to say hi to John Howard, who's the architect and kind of the brains behind the Art Deco apartment house archive.
Could I just make one correction, Gary?
No, no more corrections.
I'm a retired architect, and I retired from architecture actually in about 1975.
Okay, that's.
I'm a trained and educated architect, but I spent most of my life on the dark side in the construction industry.
Let's leave that aside. Nonetheless, what inspired?
I don't want to be sued by the AIA.
There you go. What inspired you to say, wait a minute, this is something we ought to do in the Bronx, and that is look at Art Deco buildings?
I think probably from the first time I saw Art Deco apartment houses, which was in about 1980. And I was living in Washington Heights, and I used to ride my bike across the bridge into the Bronx, and I was wowed by what I saw. And I had no idea that it.
What was it that you saw that wowed you? What was it that wowed you?
The number of buildings that are clearly in this extremely important style, which breaks all precedent. It doesn't look back on historical styles to legitimize it. It breaks new ground in architectural form and decoration.
And we don't build. We don't build buildings like this anymore. I mean,
No,
because everything
do.
is like a box.
Yeah, no, we do not. And this is what's also remarkable about this style is that it was practiced by a whole bunch of architects who kind of all agreed, whether they were communicating or not, to pretty much use this style for this period of time of their designing buildings in the Bronx. And these was all incredibly accomplished architects.
So what I want to do is put stuff up so we can see it, so we don't run out of time. I think we've got about 7 chosen.
Okay.
Let's go to Olinville Avenue, Anderson. This is 2418 Olinville Avenue. What makes this Art Deco and what makes this building special?
Okay, so this comes under the heading of early Deco. This is before the classic corner window Bronx Deco that we're probably all familiar with. And I discovered there was a terrific trove of these early Deco buildings, which kind of prefigure the later style, which everybody recognizes.
Right. We'll put. I don't want to interrupt you, but we got to move forward because otherwise we're out of time.
All right. So, but in terms of the website, you can find all of these buildings in the early Deco section if you want to see them.
I want to tease the people of the Bronx and let them understand what this is. 1224 Walton Avenue is next.
Right.
This I love. Look at the entranceway. My goodness.
All right. So this is how the Art Deco architects of the period achieved their effects. They would take traditional materials and combine them with new materials to create new patterns. And here you've got the purple bit, which is actually cast stone. It's supposed to resemble granite. It's the kind of poor man's granite, but it was probably originally gray. And then you have traditional brick patterns, which are turned on the edge to create those nice verticals. And then at the top, you have more of the cast stone, which is kind of like what I call rocketry.
I can't imagine the amount of work that went into creating that. And the thought that a company who's building housing now would spend the time and the effort to do it is forget about it. All right, let's keep going. 2805 Grand Concourse.
Okay, so this again is
building is.
Actually, that's not Grand Concourse. That's somewhere else.
Sorry, did I get the wrong one? Okay, go ahead.
All right. Put it up. I'm familiar with them all.
Put it up, Anderson. It's fine.
All right. Again, this is an example of early Deco, and you can see the verticality that is achieved by the different color of patterns of brick at the corner, and that's something which kind of was new at the time. Mostly buildings had a bottom, a middle, and a top.
What year do you think?
This is 1932.
Wow. So it's nearly 100 years old.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, I don't want to get the next address wrong, Anderson. Just put it up, and our friend John probably knows better than us. This is 2805 Grand Concourse.
Okay, you'll see that Deco comes in all different kinds of types and styles, and this is definitely a Deco building. But I don't rate it very highly, and I've tried to be honest where Deco buildings are less than great, and this is one of them. But it does have a nice lobby.
All right, there you go. Next one. Anderson, just keep rolling. This is the Grand Concourse.
Yes, that's the same. Actually, that's the same building.
All right, keep going. Let's. I've got. I think mine is East.
Again,
196th Street.
Yeah. Again, this is this is way out in the far East Bronx, where you wouldn't expect to see Deco. There are 2 buildings, and they have this kind of very garish brick patterning on them, which has a lot of zigzags in them, and that was a signature style of Art Deco. If you could get a zigzag into your patterns, then you were Art Deco. And that's an example, an early example of how that was achieved.
And people walk through these doorways, people walk through these buildings all the time, and they say, "Oh, that's where I live," or whatever, and they don't realize just stop and look at what it took to put all those the different color bricks. So the real artisans really went into creating that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that you're right that people don't realize. I think that the people who live in these
People do.
buildings,
That's fair.
I think the people that live in these buildings know that they got something special.
Some people, that's fair.
And that, you know, so many of them are in relatively good condition, the lobbies at least, and so that comes from pressure from the people who live there. So
Yep. Let's do some more. What do we got? This is 1895 Grand Concourse, totally different shaped building.
Yeah, this is what I describe as sawtooth deco, where you take a facade and you split it up into vertical rows of corner windows. And this style is not unique to the Bronx, but there are more fabulous examples of this style in the Bronx than in any other part of New York.
Wow.
And it is truly one of the glories of the Bronx.
Wow, it truly is. Let's go do a couple of quick ones, and then we'll wrap it up and tell people how they can find out more. So the next one I have on my list is this Valentine Avenue.
No, I think it's true. That might be
2229 Valentine Avenue.
Yeah, this what we are looking at is what I call in the website classic Bronx deco. And it's very simple, but it's very effective. These little stones at the entrance with the curved tops, that's what's called the waterfall style, and you'll see that a lot in deco. The entrance is the cast stone stylized columns with ribbing, but modernized. And the corner window is the focus of the facade, and it's accentuated by horizontal brick banding of several different colors. And there you have the whole essence of the classic Bronx deco building.
Right. What we have done, John, is giving people a taste of. I mean, how many buildings are in your database in the website?
I'm up to 355, I think.
We did what? 5 of them, 6 of them. So anyway, the bottom line is let's get people to the website. And I know Diego over there, while looking at a few of these, is drooling because he says these all better be preserved. And why don't you call out what the website is? We'll get it up on the screen and get people there. And Diego, let's get our HDC knuckles in there and get these preserved.
For sure.
Could I just say something about accessing the website?
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's only recently been launched, and you can't search it with Google. You have to insert the site into your URL window at the top of your browser.
Right. That's fine. And what is the URL?
Okay. Can you bring it up?
We'll put it up on the screen then, so that everybody can see it.
It's actually the acronym for Bronx Art Deco Apartment House Archive.
BADAHA.
BADAHA. Badaha.
John Howard, you are brilliant. Thank you for caring about our borough. And of course, my buddy
thank
Diego,
you for giving me the time to show people what my obsession has been and still is. And let's hope we can get some people to share it.
Got it. We got to go. Thank you, Diego. Thank you, John. And thank Rebecca Lewis.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Diego.
And you know what we always say, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll see you next week.